have a female down. She's been shot several times. He fired 9 shots, so I don't know how many hit her.
She was able to give a description.
There was a man in a silver car, it was a Chevy.
As the day progressed, another call came in.
The guy just shot some people. You could see the smoke from his gun.
The second shooting within hours. Things like this just don't happen around here.
Just minutes later.
Kimsey County 911.
I'm at Kalamazoo Cracker Barrel. 2 cars have been shot up. It's a blue HHR.
Obviously, a dark colored car doesn't make sense to us. We just didn't know if there was a link or if there were different shooters, but the body count is growing.
This was a brutal execution.
Half of our family was gone.
There was no reason in this.
I know you want an explanation. If you guys only knew, it would blow your mind.
Boom, 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 boom.
've lived in Kalamazoo my entire life. Kalamazoo is one of those cities where it's small, everybody kind of knows each other. You have a little bit of a mixture between country, you've got a little bit of city. I live in an apartment complex called the Meadows.
It's a large community, lots of children, and the playground was right by where we live.
I was just at home. It was a good Saturday just to kind of chill out, and all of a sudden you could hear pow, 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 pow. You don't hear that around our place.
I'm cooking, and I didn't know what was going on until I saw my daughter Joy and 11 screaming children flying through my door. It took them a while to say someone is shooting. This little girl, she kept saying, "Where's my mommy?"
I have been a firefighter now for 15 years and ended up running outside.
I just ran out there, and I ended up finding a woman wedged down beside a curb.
You could see where the bullets had hit her. I had no clue who she was.
She was just laying there, shot up. I instantly started praying. She looked lifeless, you know. I didn't know if I was looking at a dead body. But she was able to speak. I knew I had to let her know the kids were okay. And so I said, I have them, you know, I know you don't know me, I live here, that the children that were with you, your child, your children are okay. And then I called 911.
County emergency.
Hello, I need an ambulance. Please hurry up. Somebody shot you on the ground.
Where's the person that shot her?
I don't know. The car sped off. Please.
Okay, ma'am, we're gonna get the people going there.
Please don't move. Just stay there. They coming, okay?
We're in the complex. One shot.
On my way to work, I heard the report of shots fired and someone being struck at the Meadows apartment complex. I know from being out there multiple times that there's a lot of families and kids that are out there. So listening to the call, and initially I started thinking there's probably some sort of domestic relationship that was involved, and maybe there was some sort of fight that occurred beforehand that we just didn't know about.
Officers started interviewing witnesses. The victim had been walking children on a sidewalk area. An individual pulled up to her in a vehicle and shot.
There was a man in a silver car, it was a Chevy.
One of the neighbors identified the victim was 25-year-old Tiana Carruthers. As Tiana Carruthers was being treated for her injuries, she was able to give a description of the driver.
County 321.
The shooter is described as having a chubby face with blondish hair that's combed down and a silver, smaller semi-automatic handgun.
He fired 9 shots, so I don't know how many hit her.
Or Be on the Lookout was put out to the public for a silver Chevy with the description of the driver. But we were searching for any type of motive we could figure out, because just everywhere we looked, we weren't really finding one. The deputies and the detectives and the crime scene techs from the sheriff's office continued their investigation and collecting all of the forensic evidence, interviewing witnesses, doing a canvass, As the day progressed, another call came in.
911, where's your emergency?
Hi, we're on Business 94. We passed the Kia dealership, and a guy just shot some people in the parking lot. There's a man standing there pointing a gun at two people lying on the ground. We could see the smoke from his gun and hear it as we drove by.
Okay. All right, ma'am. I'm going to go ahead and get an ambulance on the way. Did you happen to see anything else that you can think of as far as a description of the male?
I just know that he was white and had like a full head of hair, probably light-colored gray or blonde.
I'd say Kalamazoo is a very safe town. We don't normally get multiple acts of violence in a short period of time. So having 2 shootings within hours, this seemed unusual. Initially at the Kia dealership, not knowing what was going on, we had other officers that had rifles, had guns out. They were looking, hey, is this somebody that was shooting from a distance? Is this somebody that's still here?
Just FYI, it's possible there could be other victims here. There's rounds all over, so.
As I was walking up to the scene, I noticed first responders doing life-saving procedures on an older male and a younger male on the ground. They look like they are about the age of a father and son.
I had heard that a father and son had been shot at a car dealership on Stadium Drive. I went home, and my husband, Rich, wasn't there. And that's when my heart sunk. And so I dialed 911. I, asked him, was it my son? And, was it Rich and Tyler Smith? And the police officer said yes. And I said, are they alive? And he said, no, I'm sorry, they didn't make it.
This was a brutal execution of 2 people. And it is the second shooting within hours. Things like this just don't happen around here. The car dealership had a very high quality video surveillance system. You could clearly see that it was a shorter, heavy set male with glasses, and his vehicle was readily identifiable as a dark colored Chevrolet HHR. But we could not obtain a license plate from that video.
I go back to check with command to let them know, hey, what can I do now? Do I need to start processing the scene while we wait for the crime lab to get there? Within just a few moments, all of a sudden the report comes over the radio.
Kalamazoo County 911.
I'm at Kalamazoo Cracker Barrel. 2 cars have been shot up and 1 guy is not moving.
There had been 2 shootings in one night, and then we hear on the police radio that we had just had another shooting.
We need this thing roped off now.
We walked up on this red sedan. This one obviously had bullet holes in it. I looked in the driver's side and I recognized that there was 2 older women in there and there was no pulse on either one of them. It was at that point I see him in the minivan as another victim. So I reach in and realize that that victim is deceased as well and there's no pulse.
There's a female in the back seat, driver's side.
We're conducting life-saving procedures on a small child.
I need an ambulance in here as soon as I can.
We grabbed this small child out. We realized pretty quickly that she's in really bad shape. Got her in an ambulance and got her out of there.
Any similarity?
Possible suspect vehicle, Chevy, blue HHR.
We knew that earlier in the day there was a silver Equinox involved in the shooting that was in the Meadows apartment complex, but this is the second shooting that involves a dark-colored HHR. We didn't know if there was any possibility that there was a link between the first shooting and the second shooting, but these 2 events were related.
Whoever the shooter is, we have to get them off the street as quick as we can.
On Saturday night in Kalamazoo, a woman is shot several times in a parking lot at an apartment complex. She survived but is in serious condition. At 10:08 p.m., Richard Smith and his 17-year-old son, Tyler, are shot and killed at a car dealership. And at 10:24 p.m., 4 women, all over the age of 60, are shot and killed at a Cracker Barrel. A 14-year-old girl was also shot but survived. A manhunt was underway to find the person pulling the trigger.
I was scared. My biggest concern was for my own family. I wanted them to be home and safe, but I had to change gears and come in and start helping to investigate this case.
But I believe he's on detection.
It certainly seemed like the Cracker Barrel shooting was connected to the shooting at the car dealership. But at that point, we didn't know if all 3 shootings were possibly related.
But when we got a description of the driver at the Cracker Barrel and from the car dealership, that was similar to the suspect description at the Meadows.
So now we're thinking the shooter from all of the scenes could be the same person. The suspect possibly switched cars from the first incident to the second and third incident.
If you're standing here, boom, 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 boom.
We were looking for any evidence that might point to the identity of the shooter, but our biggest goal was to put a stop to these shootings.
Due to the fact that it's a Saturday night, we knew that there was going to be a lot of people out. They could be our next set of victims. There's an active shooter out there, and his body count is growing. Let's go find this guy and let's get him off the streets before he hurts anybody else. We know what kind of car we're looking for. A black or dark color Chevy HHR.
Trouble with partners on TX getting further.
As I was patrolling, I was talking to a sergeant from the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Department, and he told me, hey, I think I got him.
Still northbound, stop at Kalamazoo. Wait for everything. Now let's be lighted up.
I then got on the radio and told him, hey, I'm right behind you. Go ahead and light it up.
But if this is actually the shooter, there's only a couple of ways that this is going to end. The person's either going to flee in a car, and we're going to get in a pursuit, or there's going to be a gunfight.
The driver eventually stops the black HHR.
Driver, take your hands off the window!
The deputy had the driver step out of the car. I stayed as a cover officer.
And when they took him out of the car, they started to search him. And as he pats him down, he finds a gun on him.
Rifle, caliber's 9mm, handgun, probably 14 shot. Also semi-automatic.
Yes, sir.
Based on the fired cartridge casings that were recovered at the scenes. We had 9mm at all of them, which is the same caliber weapon he had on him.
He matched the description of the person we're looking for, driving the car that we're looking for. Oh my gosh, this is the guy. And he never said a word, just stood there. And it was just an eerie feeling.
He has one custody, one weapon off of him.
File check was run on the license plate, and it was determined that it was registered to Jason Dalton. He's transported to Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety headquarters. Even still at that point, with him in custody, we were concerned with the Silver Equinox as well, because we didn't know where it was, we hadn't seen it, and we just weren't sure that he was actually responsible for the shooting at the Meadows.
They heard a short 4 shots. Did not see any.
Detective Girangelli and I look into Jason Dalton's background quickly before we begin the interview with him.
We could not find anything on why these shootings happened. Take your sweatshirt off there, please. Yep, go ahead. Underneath his sweater, he is wearing a bulletproof vest. That was a bit alarming.
That makes me think he planned and thought about this before he did what he did that night.
The main focus of the interview was to find out if there's any other victims, if there's more crime scenes, that this has been put to a stop, and that everybody in this community is now safe.
Is there anybody else that needs any medical attention that we might not know about?
Can I just plead the fifth?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
In this case, like many defendants do, and as every person has the absolute constitutional right to do, Mr. Dalton tried to exercise his right to not speak anymore.
Detective Maureen and I eventually left the room and had a conversation with several other detectives and superiors. There was a risk in continuing the interview with Jason Dalton, but there is a public safety exception to Miranda rights. We definitely walk a fine line, but it was determined that we would continue to question him based on the public safety exception.
There could have been other victims out there suffering that needed medical assistance that he had shot. This is just for public safety. How many different locations did you shoot people at today? Just so we know we're not missing one.
I could not fathom somebody laying in a ditch, and they cannot get help.
I know that isn't the case.
There's nothing to confirm that. We need to know more. Let me ask you this. Are you married?
Yes.
Children?
Yes.
They're all alive and well and healthy?
It's common when a mass shooting happens that the suspect has done harm to their own family and then harmed the general public. We still did not know if his family was safe. So we asked him to make a phone call to his wife. Hopefully the family is safe.
Hello?
Hi, honey.
What's going on?
I just wanted to hear your voice, sweetheart. I'm gonna let you go, okay? Bye-bye.
All right.
It was an odd exchange between Jason and his wife, but there was a sense of relief there knowing that the family was safe. Once that phone call with Jason's wife was concluded, he reverted back to the previous answers. He was not providing any insight onto why these shootings happened. The only information we had was he appeared to be an average person.
He has no criminal history, and there's no history of mental illness, there's no history of medications. There was just nothing there.
None of this seemed to make any sense. It seemed like there had to be a reason on why an average person with a family and a full-time job would just start driving around a community and killing innocent people. It was a mystery to us.
I'd like to just not discuss it.
It seemed to be at somewhat of a standstill, and right around that point, Detective Don McGeehee from the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office came in and explained to us that he knew Jason Dalton.
He ran the Explorer program for youth that Dalton's son was in at the Sheriff's Department. So a decision was made to have Detective McGeehee go back in with me.
Hey, Jason.
Hi.
How you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
The goal was to get more out of Jason, and with Detective McGeehee, it was the best chance because he knew him.
You all right tonight?
Yeah, not really though, but...
What's going on?
Jason sees him and obviously recognizes him.
But we had no idea what Mr. Dalton was going to tell us.
Kalamazoo police are saying they have apprehended one suspect in the wake of today's shootings, but more questions than answers tonight. How many victims remain unidentified, and is the city still at risk?
At this point, we had videos of Mr. Dalton and his vehicle at the Sealy car dealership and the Cracker Barrel store. Some showed different things, some were better than others, but we were very confident that we had the right person.
The main focus of Jason Dalton being in that room is to find out if there's any other victims, that this has been put to a stop, and that everybody in this community is now safe from these shootings.
I know you want an explanation.
You can give one.
Because you're not this guy.
No.
If you guys only knew, it would blow your mind.
Okay.
Okay.
At that point, we were hoping that he would finally completely break the ice wide open and give us a full version of events.
I recognize the symbol that's on Uber.
Uh-huh.
Could you bring my phone up to me so I could see it?
I have the Uber thing on here.
Can I see it, please?
He starts by saying that he just started becoming a rideshare driver. That's when all the problems started.
On Uber,
Uh-huh.
when I clicked it, it went tink, and then there was like a double head that popped up. And I pressed that button, and that's where all the problems went after that.
I'm like to myself, all right, here we go. And he's maybe trying to set up that he's insane.
I've experienced the full body takeover. It literally has control of you. I would have never done any of these atrocities that have happened.
Right.
There's no history of mental illness. There's no history of medications. There was no reason in this.
It's important for the detectives to take the information and not visually react to it, because he might completely shut down in front of you. But everybody else in the monitoring room knew it was nonsense.
We continue to ask questions about the app and how does it take over your mind? Explain the app to us, and that was, our way of getting him to continue on. And
What made you get your firearm tonight? The app, the Uber?
Yeah.
Is that what made you put the vest on too?
Yeah. Do you remember shooting people? There's like little spots where it pops in and pops out.
He wouldn't give us specifics, but this was the first time that he admitted his involvement in these incidents.
I mean, you're looking at this guy that just killed all these people, these strangers that have nothing to do with anything. I mean, just random strangers. I mean, for somebody to go from nothing in their life, no contact with police, to this, and then to show this no lack of emotion, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it in my life.
At this point in the interview, we decided to take Jason Dalton's clothing from him. It would be used as evidence, and we provided him with a standard issue orange jumpsuit. Even though up to this point, Jason Dalton was giving a story that was not believable, he was talking.
I do remember the Cracker Barrel.
Oh, the restaurant. Okay.
What do you remember about that? I never even aimed.
You just went like that?
It just, yes.
You remember doing that?
I remember that it just kind of had me, you know what I mean? I don't know how much I may have done or not done.
If you think of anything, can you let us know?
Sure.
We didn't believe that we were going to get anything else out of Jason.
Jason did tell us that he was the only shooter during this incident. The biggest thing was that the public was safe and that there wasn't anybody else out there that was going to be doing any more shootings. So it brought a sort of a sense of relief, but at that point, based on his statements, we had some concerns that he would be setting himself up for an insanity defense down the road.
We knew there was a chance he might claim that he didn't know what he was doing, that he wasn't acting in his right mind as it's defined by the law. He was taken back to the Kalamazoo County Jail.
Mr. Dalton? Yes, sir. I'm gonna pat you down real quick.
While he was there, Michigan State Police investigator Kyle Gorham conducted a second interview with Mr. Dalton.
Jason, I'm Kyle Gorham. Just call me Kyle, okay? Is that all right?
That's fine.
My goal was to show that Mr. Dalton had a clear sense of thought. He knew what he was doing.
So you already explained that you understand the rights to me. So I'm just going to read them to you this time. Okay.
After what occurred in the first interview, I advised him I still wanted to Mirandize him, where we're getting him his Miranda rights. And then I asked him very directly if he cared to sit and talk with me, which he granted, so he consented to speaking with me.
I think that the line of questioning you were going to ask me would be fine.
Okay.
Then I started the interview process with him right from there.
So walk me through this. What starts happening now?
Okay.
My focus isn't on asking why he did what he did, because I didn't want anything to shut him down. It's about showing not that he was insane, but he was very cognizant of what was occurring.
It felt like I was on fire. This is the really scary part, is I go down in my basement where I have my guns, and I'm like a robot. I'm just putting guns together.
And he acquired what he advised was a Glock 19 9mm handgun. And he went back to work as an Uber driver.
There's some apartment complex. I go by this woman and I ask her if she's a mechanic, and she says, no, I'm not. Why do you ask? And I'm like, I'm the Uber driver. And so then I go down and I go around again, and then I reached in, I grabbed my Glock, and I go up. I just had to go like that, and it was like
Automatic?
Yeah, it was like it just had me. I know I killed her, because how could you survive that many gunshots?
He thought that I was dead. Oh, goodness. But I made it.
You shot her multiple times.
I believe that I dumped the whole magazine there.
I remember hearing the gunshots coming from behind me. And the first bullet hit me in my left arm from behind. Then when I got shot in my right leg, I just went down. And then the third bullet hit me in my left leg. I was laying face down. I kept trying to get under the truck that was next to me, and he just kept shooting. When I realized that he wasn't gonna stop shooting, I laid there pretending like I was dead. Then a bullet hit me. I just remember feeling the bullet bounce inside of my stomach. It was the worst pain. You're trying to live. You go into this survivor's mode. I just kept telling myself, I haven't seen my daughter grow. I haven't seen the world. My sister, she's gonna go to prom. I'm gonna see her graduate. I'm gonna make it. I'm not gonna die today.
Tiana saved my child's life, her child's life, and there were kids on the playground too that ran because she screamed, "Run!" So there's lives that she saved that nobody even realizes.
I just remember describing who this man was and how it happened because I didn't know if I was gonna make it, and I wanted to make sure that, they caught the bastard who shot me.
At that time, the connection was not made with that prior shooting until Jason Dalton admitted his involvement in that interview room.
After Jason shot Tiana Crothers, he's driving at high rates of speed.
Then I pull in the garage.
And this is where?
My mom and dad's house.
Okay. Do you think at some point in time that the police would have been looking for that car? At that moment? Are you thinking about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Why did he do that? Well, he did it because he didn't want the police to see. He's hiding it. I want him to acknowledge what he did, to show that he was aware of what was occurring.
I go down, I get a bag, and I put my guns take them out of one car and put them in the other.
He switched cars and took his wife's black Chevy HHR and then went back to Ubering.
Jason Dalton made a conscious decision to change vehicles after that first incident. It showed that he was thinking, he was rational, he was trying to cover his tracks.
And then where'd you go?
To the car dealership. I drew my gun and I shot those two people.
Did they talk to you at all?
I think they said hello or hi or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I shot them.
My husband and son were shot and killed. Rich and I shared just about everything with each other. He was an amazing person.
Tyler, well, he's my baby brother, so I had to kind of show him the ropes. We had a sibling rivalry, but we also depended on each other for literally everything.
How am I gonna do this life without Rich and Tyler? Half of our family was gone.
After the Kia dealership shooting, Jason Dalton, he goes to the Cracker Barrel where the final incident occurred.
I get out, and I walk up to this lady and I ask her if she could spare $1. And she told me that she didn't have the $1 to spend. And I shot her. And I heard people scream. And then I shot some people in a car. I left there and went to my house.
Okay. And your purpose for that was what?
To get more bullets.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did reload a magazine. I know that they'll think of me as a monster, because what I've done is kind of monstrous.
The statements that he made were very important because not only did they personally put him there, but at the point we thought he might claim some sort of insanity, his interviews with Detective Gorham showed that it wasn't just one spree where he went out of his mind for 30 or 45 seconds, that this was something that happened over 6 or 7 hours, that he was doing rational things in between. That makes it very difficult, in my experience, to claim insanity. And now it's our job to make sure he would never have the opportunity to leave prison.
Is there anything you wish to tell the court at this time?
I would prefer just to remain silent.
Investigators seized no less than 11 weapons from his home. He was charged with 16 counts in all, including attempted murder of a minor.
After Mr. Dalton was arraigned in Michigan, you have a right to a hearing before the trial. It was impossible not to be moved by the emotion of the scene. Everything was so fresh. We had the victim's family there, we had the actual victims, specifically Tiana Carruthers, and Jason Dalton was gonna walk in the room, walk in the cameras for the first time. The 50 or 60 family members and witnesses that were there were gonna be feet away from the person who had injured them, or in most cases, their loved ones.
It was really hard to see him. He walked right in front of us.
It's just like evil just walked in and you literally can feel it.
Let me call your first witness for examination.
Nobody really knew what was gonna happen.
Call Tiana Carruthers.
It was only 3 months since I had been shot. I just kind of felt like the weight of the world was on my chest and I needed to go testify. I just felt like it was my responsibility to do it for me and for the others that had passed away.
We were concerned about Tiana because she had been through something so horrible so recently.
It felt like just yesterday I was gunned down and then I was in a courtroom to face this man.
So, Miss Carruthers, are you okay?
Take it, take it, take it, take it.
It was just so hard.
None of us expected to hear his voice, and especially not poor Tiana.
The judge decided that based on that outburst, Mr. Dalton had waived his right to be physically present, so he was taken back to the jail.
Something just snapped at me right then and there.
Tiana was extremely upset, but to her credit, she was able to regain her composure and get back up on the stand and really, really bravely tell what had happened to her.
I just remember just shooting and shooting, and I just remember I tried to move, but I couldn't move. I tried to get under the car.
Do you see the person who shot you?
Yes, I do. I could never forget his face, ever. It was just a roller coaster of emotions, but I had to send him away.
She said, I am going to do this in memory of all the people that are no longer here. This guy will not get away with this.
Knowing that she's gonna see this man who tried his hardest to kill you, but she did it. That took a whole lot of bravery.
Fortunately, the judge thought we had enough evidence on all of the counts to get every single count against Jason Dalton bound to trial.
The attorney for Jason Dalton says that he'll use insanity as a defense.
If the court allows for an insanity defense, jurors would have 4 verdict options: guilty, not guilty by reason of insanity, or guilty but mentally ill.
It's important for us to do everything we can as part of the process to ensure a conviction, ensure that justice is being done.
The statements that he made were very important, especially his interviews with Detective Gorham showed his knowledge of what he was doing, his forethought, the fact that he understood what he was doing was wrong and continued to do it anyway. I didn't know what could happen, what might happen, but I knew exactly what Jason Dalton did, and he needed to be held accountable for everything.
Mr. Dalton understands the nature of the charges against him. Mr. Dalton understands the potential penalties if convicted of these crimes. Mr. Dalton is able to assist his attorney in defending this case. The defendant is competent to stand trial, and this case will proceed on to the next stage of the criminal process.
Fortunately, it was decided that in this moment, he knew what he was doing, and as such, he was competent to stand trial.
We wanted to get this over with. We were looking forward to knowing what really happened that night beyond what we saw in the video. We were looking forward to going to trial.
In this case, it always felt like one thing led to another. You know, there was always a next thing. But what happened next was literally probably the worst case scenario that we could have imagined.
Family and friends of the victims were in court to hear the arguments. The dispute is over the contents of 2 interviews with Dalton following the shooting spree.
Mr. Dalton's attorney challenged the Miranda warnings, that Mr. Dalton tried to stop these interviews and was not allowed to do so, and by that, his constitutional rights were infringed upon and should not be used in the case.
Both investigators who took the stand say they read Dalton his Miranda rights.
25 times he says he doesn't want to speak. 15 of those times, he actually mentions the word the fifth.
Is there anybody else that needs any medical attention that we might not know about?
Can I just plead the fifth?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
At the time he invoked the fifth, did you feel like you had enough information to be confident that the people of Kalamazoo County were safe from further harm?
Absolutely not.
There is a public safety exception to Miranda that I lay out and cite in my brief, and that's what they were following.
The public safety exception was created just for situations like this. The detectives in this case felt that public safety was at stake. They didn't know if he was part of some bigger group or ideology or some act of terror. They didn't know whether there were other victims laying somewhere bleeding that could have help. That was all information that they were trying to get from him that night.
And the questioning, as you will see, it's not because they're concerned about public safety. They're interrogating my client.
Dalton's lawyer argued once Dalton said no to waiving his rights, a second interview initiated by investigators was unconstitutional.
The Court of Appeals found in our favor, so there was some sense of relief. But Mr. Dalton's attorneys took it one step farther and appealed again.
The officers never even give him an opportunity to breathe.
No decision from the court here today. That won't come for at least a few weeks, only further dragging out a lengthy legal process that's now nearing 2.5 years.
The prosecuting attorney, they kept us informed along the way. You know, if it comes back this way, this is what happens. If it comes back the other way, then this is what happens. We had to prepare ourselves for whatever came.
Another delay in justice. The Michigan Court of Appeals ruling today that statements made by accused killer Jason Dalton cannot be used at trial.
Lori Smith spoke to us about the appeals court decision.
I trust that they will get justice to be served. I am just wanting this whole thing to be done, as I'm sure you can imagine.
We had to make a serious decision about whether or not we wanted to appeal it back to the Supreme Court. We consulted with the victims.
Our initial reaction was, oh my goodness. But then after we talked to the prosecuting attorney's office, when the next delay came and the next delay came, we trusted them because we knew that they were doing what they needed to do to make sure that this person was convicted.
At this point, the case had been carrying on for 3 years. The victims wanted to bring the case to justice sooner rather than later. We were finally ready to go to trial.
Court calls the case of the people of the state of Michigan versus Jason Brian Dalton.
And then on the last day of jury selection, something happened.
Court has been informed that there has been a resolution in this matter. Is that correct? Yes, Judge.
Everything stopped. Mr. Dalton let his attorney know that he was interested in pleading guilty. Maybe this is all over.
He does not want to put his family or the victims' families through the trial.
Jason Dalton pled guilty to every single count against him. 6 counts of murder, 2 counts of assault with intent to murder, and the accompanying weapons charges.
He was a coward to the end, even the way that he chose to plea at the last minute.
The last thing to happen was a sentencing.
There's a number of victims and victims' families who wish to make impact statements here today.
I was fortunate at the sentence to be in the closest chair to the victims who were at the podium speaking, and they were all so beautiful and eloquent in their own way.
Nothing can prepare someone for the phone calls my brother and I received February 20th, 2016.
I've lost the woman I've married for 41 years.
I turn around in my home and call their names out of habit when I wish to share something with them. I yearn for someone to talk to, but not just anyone, but my husband or my son.
In December of 2016, I got married. I walked down the aisle alone, holding a box with my brother and my dad's ashes in it.
She strove to be the best version of herself and her friends. My goodness, Barbara had friends everywhere.
The fact that they chose to focus on the beauty of the people who were killed and not the horror of what Jason Dalton had done.
My name is Tiana Carruthers, survivor of Jason Dalton's crimes.
Tiana has endured so much with this, but yet she still smiles, she still inspires, she still cares, she's still being a hero.
I'm standing here in your face, in front of you. How does it make you feel?
This man thought that he destroyed her, But what he did was he made that hero even stronger.
I see pain in your hatred. Your pain is contagious. Your rage is heinous. You spread it like a disease. Who do you think you are? I have nothing else to say.
That day felt like now you're in front of all of us. You know, you're not just picking us off one at a time.
Mr. Dalton, you may stand. A conviction of murder carries the punishment of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. You understand that?
Yes.
I still didn't have any more idea of why he did it than the day I woke up and was looking at the news and found out what had happened here.
We were hoping to learn the why, too.
And we probably never will know why. And even if we did know why, it probably wouldn't be good enough.
This case, in so many ways, brought out the strength of the Kalamazoo community. And on the top of that list is the law enforcement folks who worked on this case. We had 3 different departments at 3 different scenes. They all worked together, and their only goal was to do what was best for the case.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all so very much for coming out.
I had been so struck by the amount of people that came to visitation, that came to funerals, all the things that people did. How do I repay them? And I'm like, I have to give back. That is the whole purpose behind Forever Strong. Putting on events so that we all can be strong together. And by doing that, it's like a family.
It's our way of focusing on the good part of their life versus how it ended.
Tyler realized how important living each moment was.
He's like, you know, I might not have tomorrow, so I'm gonna live every single day to the fullest. I'm so glad that he did.